Today's topic is AI Basics for TAS. I am your host, Tifani Leal. Today's presenter is Steve Newell. Steve Newell has been in telecom since the mid-1980s and in the TAS world since 2007. Steve has served on both the ATSI and Chemex boards as a vendor representative. He founded CloudConsult in 2021 and is passionate about discovering emerging technologies in the contact center world that can benefit TAS. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar will be recorded and the video will be available in approximately 7 to 10 days on the ATSI Learning Management System on the website. I am monitoring the chat and Q&A windows. Please feel free to ask questions and participate during the webinar. Please remember to reduce feedback on our connection, mute your position. Thank you again, and Steve, now it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Tiffany. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today, I want to talk about AI basics for TAS, and to talk about the future. I want to kind of look at the TAS industry in a little bit of a historical way. So, but our agenda today, we're going to talk about the TAS technology spectrum and where we are as far as how much technology we're using and where we need to perhaps grow. And we're going to talk about automation, what it is, what it isn't. We're going to talk about no-code programming versus regular programming. And we're going to talk about what the best investments that you can make in your telefinancing service, whether it be in labor or in automation, or where should we be investing to be able to grow. And we're also going to talk about automation versus artificial intelligence. And let's go ahead and jump in. I want to talk about the TAS technology spectrum. So if we look at this screen here, at the bottom, you'll see manual. So, and we all started in the manual phase where, we're taking calls and we're writing them on slips of paper and putting them in wheels and spinning them around and then spinning them back and taking them out and reading them back to the doctors and so on and so forth. And so a lot of manual labor, not much technology. I don't know if you can call a spinning wheel a technology, but the next big step that the TAS industry took, as you know, is to add scripting and then to add dispatch. Remember when texting came along and so on. So scripting and dispatch. So we kind of moved over to the right a little bit. We got a little bit more technology, a little bit more automation, and then we're taking another step in automation. And that you can think of automation as things like the fact that we used to have dispatch, but now we have automated dispatches. We have the ability to set, by day or by hour or by situation, how calls are automatically routed out to the different plumbers and lawyers and doctors and so on and so forth. So there's a lot more automation that's been added on top of the scripting and dispatch that's really saved a lot of labor and made us more efficient and actually stopped a lot of errors that we were making. The next step in technology, the next step up would be bots and knowledge bases. And bots and knowledge bases really come into play when we're doing things like when we're using two-way SMS, two-way email, we're using web chat, and we're using the omni channels, because bots are going to be able to allow us to take conversations that come in and read them and then respond to them based on the content or subject lines or whatever, dip into a knowledge base and give pre-canned answers and so on and so forth. And then at the top of the pyramid there is artificial intelligence. So we're all kind of somewhere, all of us are all kind of somewhere on this technology spectrum. And let's look at this next slide. So if you think about it, when we talk about the manual things that we do, it's all labor. It's all labor, and it's basically hardly any software and so on and so forth. So when we introduce scripting and dispatch, The good news is that it decreased agent labor because those agents were able to move through phone calls a lot more quickly and dispatch with a lot less error and so on and so forth. So labor goes down, but we've got to consider the fact that it takes a lot of programming to build those scripts and build those dispatch scenarios as well. So there is labor, but it's not agent labor. Then the next thing is automation. All right, so now we have dispatch scripts and we have group dispatching and we have scripts that come on in certain times of the day, and then different scripts come on in different types of the day, which is saving us a lot of labor as far as the agents. But again, it increases our programming labor. And then when you start to roll in the omni channels and the bots and knowledge bases, I mean, they're incredibly time saving as far as the agent labor. A lot of times you can get 3/4 of the way through the transaction before you need to bring into an agent, if you need to bring in an agent at all. And so it really does save on labor. But, you know, I don't want to be disingenuous and say it doesn't create labor in other areas. It does. It increases your programming labor as well. And then in artificial intelligence kind of breaks the mold a little bit because yes, it does definitely decrease labor. It increases programming, but not as much as the bots and the automation of scripting, because all that programming was done by the companies that have put together this artificial intelligence software for you. So the cost there is not really programming costs. It's the software cost for the AI software that you're going to purchase. So, I mean, this is just a quick down and dirty, you know, let's look at it from 10,000 feet and see, you know, if we want to increase our automation, our sophistication, our efficiency, yes, it is going to mean a decrease in agent labor, but it's going to, the labor is going to, you know, be increasing as far as the programming. So let's look at automation and understand what automation really is and what it isn't. Automation does exactly what you tell it to do. So if you tell it to do the right thing and you logically set it up, then it's going to go great. If you tell it the wrong thing to do, you put in the wrong times or the wrong dates or whatever, you tell it to jump to the wrong page, it's going to do exactly that. So, so it's not really, it's not going to think. You are the one who provides the logic. There's no magic to it. You make it as smart or as not as you know, as your own efforts make it. And then the other thing is automation doesn't make any decisions at all. It just follows the directions you put into it. It doesn't require a lot of memory. It doesn't require a lot of processing power. And that's significant because when you get into the AI world, it does take a lot of memory and a lot of processing power. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but there's consequences to that. The other thing is it's never going to change its actions. It's just going to do the same thing over and over until you tell it to change. And when you change the programming, then it's going to change what it does. But automation does not learn. It will never learn. So the thing that I really believe is I've been in the industry for, you know, since 2007, I think. I really am a big believer in automating as much as you possibly can. It's the quickest and the least expensive way to increase your efficiency and cut errors. And you already have the tools probably, or you have many tools in your toolkit with the vendor platform that you have right now. And which means it really requires your team to really learn your platform. I want to go back to this point about you already have the tools. As you know, that I sold for a number of the different vendors. I've talked to other vendors at meetings and so on and so forth. One of the things that is just astonishing is how much our systems can do today. And we're really, you really got to question, am I really using my system to its greatest capability? And a lot of times the answer is no. And look, I get it. You know, we're trying to run a business. We've got employees to manage. We've got customers to negotiate things with, and we've got all kinds of different concerns. But somehow, some way, we've got to be able to take the time to step back and either have ourselves or people on our team dig into our systems and really learn how much the system can do, and then really commit really to not only learning it, but beginning to put it into practice and then start gaining efficiencies using the tools that you already have and you've already paid for. So let's look at a couple examples of how you could automate your telefinancing service today. I'll start from left to right. You can automate your checkout line. Now, I think most of us are doing this right now. We have, you know, checkout is crazy, you know, 5 o'clock, everybody's calling up. Hey, I want to make sure that, you know, my phone's being answered by the answering service so I can go home and stop worrying about it. You know, there's ways, and just check with your vendor about, you know, setting up a voicemail. Calls go to the voicemail. Hey, if you're, you know, if you reach this voicemail, that means you're reaching the telefinancing service. So we've got your calls. If you want to talk to somebody, press 0 and you'll talk to a live operator, whatever. Great. Very simple to do. If you're not doing that now, that's really low hanging fruit that can save you a lot of craziness at a checkout time. The next thing is pushing and pulling caller information out of databases into your scripts. And we'll look at that in a second. Routing and responding to emails and SMS based on content. Business intelligence tools, we'll talk about that. And integration to CRMs via APIs. So these are quick ways to, or these are ways to automate your TAS today that can really bring a lot of benefits. And let's kind of look at a couple of them here. So let's look at pushing and pulling caller info out of a database into scripts. So the idea is, and many of you are doing this, so apologies for, you know, kind of repeating all this, but some of us aren't doing it, and it's a real benefit. Basically, what you do is you say, okay, I've got a client here. He's a plumber. He's coming on board. He's got 250 clients. Hey, Mr. Plumber, why don't you give me a list of all of your first, last name, address, telephone number, client ID number, or whatever information you want to give me in a database, a CSV, an Excel, whatever. And you load it onto your system, and then you basically program your system to, when a call comes in for the plumber, do a lookup in that Excel spreadsheet. And if you see the ANI matches, then you know, basically take that information, first name, last name, phone number, all that information, and pop it into the script. So so the agent experience, or the customer experience, really is, oh, hi, Mr. Jones, are you still is your best reach number still, you know, 67, blah, blah, blah? Yes, it is. Great. You're still at 123 Main Street, right? Yep, absolutely. Okay, great. How can I help you today? And then if no, then the agent, and maybe it's a new client, or, you know, somebody call a new prospect, whatever. So the agent takes all the information, fills out all the fields, you know, repeats the name. That's Newell, right? Okay, great. Got it. And so at the close of the call, the message is dispatched. But what also happens in the background is that information that the agent gathered is now pushed back into that same database. And now, instead of 250 people in a database, you've got 251 and 52, and 53. And so, you know, soon you'll have 400 or 500. So, you know, a couple of benefits. Obviously, it's going to increase the speed of the call and the accuracy in the message, because, you know, you've already verified that information a long time ago. It gives you a very professional impression. And somebody who calls frequently is going to be pretty happy about it. I know I call a lot of telefinancing services, obviously. That's my business. And I can't tell you what a relief it is. I mean, okay, what's your first name? And that's spelled STV. And what's your last name? NEW. And I'm like, oh my God, and I give them the phone number and the email address and the so on and so forth. And then, finally they put me through. And when I reach a telephone answering service that says, oh, hi, Mr. Newell, is your number still 805, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, it's like a big drink of cold water. It's so refreshing, it's like, wow, we can get right to the business now. And so I would really, really encourage you, if you're not doing this already, you don't have to do it for every account. You don't have to do it globally for your whole system. Somebody calls in for the plumber and the next day he calls in for the, calls the whatever, the funeral home, and you already know his name. That's kind of creepy. So, don't do that. But this could be a real benefit for you. Next thing, you can route emails and route SMSs by subject line or content. Obviously, SMS doesn't have a subject line, but by content. So either way, the idea is a lot of us have accounts where we have, automated whatever. We have, maybe an electrician has, maybe they have, 50 Burger Kings in the city, and he's monitoring, or they're monitoring the freezers and the refrigerators. And so emails are being generated by those machines that say, I'm okay, or, light is out, or, I've got problems or whatever. And so you're responsible for monitoring those emails that come in, right? So if they're all, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, well, still you've got an agent who's, squinting into a screen, trying to separate which ones are a problem and which ones are just need to be archived. And that's just a big waste of labor. So if you're able to set it up so that you can automate your system to say, look at the subject line. If it says this or this or this or this or this, anything with urgent or problem or whatever, according to the account that you've set up, whatever protocol you set up, and that you've got them to configure the subject line in a certain way, then you can route the calls, that the ones that are no problem, just need to be archived, they can be archived. And the ones that need attention, they need an on-call technician, they need escalation, whatever the case is, they can be routed to agents, and they can be given a quick SLA so that those calls are being jumped on, or those emails are being jumped on. So now, does it take programming to set that up? Absolutely. Do you have to, figure it out and test it and tweak it? Absolutely. But once you got it going, it's automatic. And so you're going to be able to save a lot of time, and your SLAs, you're going to be able to meet your SLAs. I want to say about this also, this is a great opportunity, especially with SMS, to do kind of ad hoc appointment reminders, because, you can have your clients, imagine that they give you 400 names and says, and that maybe they say, I'm a dentist, and I'm running a special this month on teeth whitening, and so, send this SMS out to me and to my 400 customers, and, give them a yes or no, or I'm interested, or whatever. And then have those calls, the people who say, yeah, I am interested, then those calls are routed back to your agents, and your agents are able to reach out to these customers and set appointments and do whatever is appropriate. So that's a very, very powerful tool. I think it's being very underutilized in the TAS world right now. It's a great opportunity, and in a lot of times our systems are already set up to be able to do this. And if not, then there's tweaks where we can enhance our software to be able to do it. But it's just a great opportunity. I really believe that we're missing. Business intelligence tools, man, they're so powerful. Think about the times that you were frustrated because you said, oh, geez, I wish I could run this report, but I don't have, my vendor doesn't have this canned report, and I don't have any SQL programmers on board, and I can't get into the back end, and I don't know what I'm doing, and so on and so forth. I need this report. You're calling up and you're asking for this report, and so on and so forth. Imagine what business intelligence tools do is basically they put a GUI, a user interface in front of the SQL databases, right? And they provide drop-down boxes, on the side where you can basically access every single bit of information that your system has captured, and you can put together whatever customized reports that you want, and you can automate them. So, every Monday, send it, to my team, or send it to the customer, or whatever. You can do a whole bunch of graphical things like you can see in the picture there. So business intelligence tools, they work with any database. So obviously a lot of us are used to SQL databases. They give you enhanced reports. They allow you to do queries. They allow you to do deep dives into analytics. They help you to understand trends. You can take that information, you can push it to create your own dashboards. It gives you data visualization, charts and graphs and so on and so forth. You can use it to create scorecards. This is now business intelligence tools. Yeah, you have to go out and buy them, but you can use them to start mining the information in your own system. Let me go a little bit further. If your system and all the different vendors are different, so I don't know, you'll have to check. But if you're able to capture not only the information from the switch, like the call came in at this time, it was held, it was transferred, so on and so forth. Okay, we got all the systems do that, but some of the systems are going to capture the actual information from the message slips. So if your platform can capture that information, this BI tool can capture that information as well. So now I can start running reports and say to my clients, do you realize that every Thursday between 2 and 4, our service explodes, and they're all asking about this, this, and this. Let me run your report. And this is a way, this tool can be used for you to be able to pull yourself even closer to your client and deliver services that maybe you just do as a courtesy and for loyalty, customer loyalty. Maybe you can charge them for it or whatever, but definitely you want to start looking into business intelligence tools as an opportunity to really automate and make your reporting and your queries much more efficient. APIs. Okay, so API stands for Application Programming Interface. And the way that it works, it's a nice little simple picture here. Basically, you've got the agent over here, it's just over here, the end user. Let me put my cursor over here. So you've got your agent, okay, and somebody calls them and they need information. A call comes in, okay, and so what they want is they want information from a CRM, say it's Salesforce or Zendesk or whatever. So basically, it wants, the agent wants the system to ask this database over here, hey, can you give me some information? So you have a developer who develops a middleware called an API, and he develops it to send a request from the software, your TAS software, to this database. So this API sits in the middle. Let's call it middleware, okay? So the agent, the call comes in, the API is invoked. It asks it makes a request to the database and says, hey, do you find a match for this? Yes, I do. So it returns the information back to the agent screen, and it populates the screen just like in the other example that we were talking about. And then the agent finishes the call, and then at the close of the call, maybe the API is designed, usually the API is designed to push the new information that came in back through the middleware back into the CRM. So it basically makes a record of the call, and maybe it generates an invoice or whatever it does. Now, in this case, there is programming that needs to happen by somebody who knows what they're doing, an API developer, to create these APIs. So, and I'm not going to go much more deeply into that just because of time. But now I want to talk about, this brings us to no code programming versus coding or programming. Now, when you and I use the word programming, we usually think of someone who sits down and creates a journey for a caller. Call comes in, is it this, yes or no? If it's yes, then we create this journey. If it's no, we create a different journey. And so, and we do that with the software that we have with our vendors, with our providers right now. We call that programming. And versus the programming we just talked about, which is somebody developing an API, right? So in no code programming, that's what they call it these days, okay? And so it's using visual development. It's, there's little icons and so on and so forth. It's usually drag and drop. It's used by non-technical people. They don't need to know software development. They just need to have the logic to be able to figure out, here, I want to get from here to here. I want my agent to get from here to here. There's no coding training needed. You supply the logic. You use it for scripting. You use it when you build any kind of automations like the dispatch scripts. You use it when you are building bots. You use it for business intelligence tools. You're the one that's building the report. You're the one who wants to figure out what it is you want. And so you have to supply the logic to build that report. You use it today. That's what you're using. You're using no code programming when you use your system. And coding or programming, real programming, or not real programming, but coding, let's say, it does require software training. And it's used to develop APIs, software integrations, SQL queries. And basically you're talking about higher salaried employees, or you're talking about professional services from, a third party or from your vendor or whatever. So big difference between the two. Here's an example. So this is my website. This is where I send my emails out of. So if I want to send an email, like, I don't know anything about building a website or all this stuff, but okay, I'm fairly logical. So look, add a catchy header, type. Okay, pull a image in there, ATSI, okay, start writing your message here. Okay, type. Oh, look, there's a little button. What do I do? Okay, over here, I can put a link in there, and I can call this button, push here to set an appointment. Okay. And then I just copy and paste my Calendly link or whatever. And when I send the email out, it's like, oh, look, set up an appointment with Steve, click this button, click. Now, what do I know about programming? Nothing, okay? But, this is just a kind of a graphical example of what you guys are doing with your systems as well. You've got icons, you drag them over, you click them, they open up, they give you some options, change the color, all that stuff. So this is an example, perfect example of no code programming. Now, the thing that you got to think about is there's always a break-even point. So, yeah, it takes a lot of labor to build these, that automation that I talked about, all those things about the in and outbound emails and text and the bots and the automating, bringing information from a database into the message slip and then pushing it back to the database if there's any changes, whatever. Yeah, that takes work. Okay, so let's think about it for a second. You've got an agent, and that agent's making, I'm just using round numbers here. So the agent's making $15 an hour, right? But every time that agent goes into the into that call for that particular client that you've built that application where I'm dipping into a database and getting the information. Just say, for argument's sake, the data agent saves 30 seconds off that call. I think probably they save more, but anyway, let's just say 30 seconds. So you got your no-code programmer, and they're making $30 an hour because, you know, they're more experienced and they're more knowledgeable, and they're building your message slips and so on and so forth. And just say it takes them 2 hours to program that account. Okay, that's a long, long time, but just say it takes them 2 hours. So at some point, it's going to pay off. You're going to start saving money because, you know, it's shaving that 30 seconds off of every single call. Now, so do a little math in your head. How many calls would it take in order for it to pay off, to take the time and devote the labor to create that that connection between a database and your script? 240 calls. So now you may look at this and you may say, well, Steve, you got to factor this in and factor that in. And I understand that. And, you know, next time we're at a conference, you can take me out to dinner and you can tell me how wrong I am. And that's great. But that's the way you got to start thinking. Like, how much am I really going to save by automating it? And it's shocking over time how much you can save, because once you get to that 240 calls, after 241, it's all money in the bank. So you really got to start looking at it that way. So if I really want to grow my business, okay, and let's talk about this here. Everybody wants to grow their business, but in the, you know, back in the day, if you grew your business, you would have to increase your labor, right? Well, what's everybody saying these days? Every conference you go to, I can't find anybody to hire. Nobody wants to work. I'm underemployed. I need more labor. I need more this. Well, that problem isn't going away anytime soon. Okay. So we've got to figure out if we're either going to stay the same and stagnate, or we've got to figure out a way to grow with the labor resources that we have right now. So how are we going to do that? Well, this is your low-hanging fruit right here. You continue to work on your scripting and dispatch. You continue to add automation. And when you bring on the omni-channels, you continue to build more and more bots and deeper knowledge bases. Now, what does that mean? That means you have to start investing right here. You've got to have, if you don't do this, if you don't invest right here, you're not going to be able to grow. And again, I know that I'm oversimplifying it and so on and so forth, but I don't see any other way. So what's going to be your way forward? Okay. You have to find what I call logical listeners. In other words, you got to find people in your organization that are very logical so that they can program logically, okay? Because that's all they need. They don't need software training. They just need to be logical. And they need to be good listeners, because they need to talk to the agents and the supervisors and the owners and the salespeople and everybody else. And they need to take all those considerations, you know, and aggregate them and figure out, okay, how, you know, from everybody's perspective, how can I make us more efficient? And so you've got to invest in your team, which means a lot more training. It means collaboration with everybody on your team. Again, to understand, you know, because the big thing with programmers is they sit in the dark room and they program all day and they think, oh, this is so cool. And then they bring it out to us and we're like, what is that? That doesn't help me. Well, that's not the problem, you know. And they're also, look how proud I am about this thing. And so you need a lot of collaboration. You need vendor training. Listen, I'm telling you, we are not using our systems anywhere near to the max, anywhere near. You've got to start investing in reading your manuals and making phone calls and learning your system, because there's just there's gold in those things. You got to send your people to user groups. You got to be involved in user groups. That's gold, because they're going to tell you exactly how to use the system. Get your people on the listserv. I mean, I read these listservs, and it's unbelievable the amount of technical information, questions and answers and questions and answers and questions and answers and shortcuts and, cheats and everything else. Guys, and it can't be just the owner on the listserv. You got to have your team on the listserv. There's just great information there. You got to send them to conferences face to face. You got to create alliances. They've got to create alliances, and that's where they're going to create those alliances, at the conferences. I'm a very big believer in that. Now they're picking up the phone, they're calling, other people with the same system, and they're asking them questions, and they're sharing with each other, and it creates competition. Do not underestimate. These people are always the smartest people in the room, and it's really good for them to not be the smartest people in the room sometimes. And it really gets their competitive juices going. And you've got to give them challenges. Look, here's the problem. I have this much labor. I have to do this, and give them the time to go in the back room and sit down and shut off the phone and think about it and come up with a solution. They can do it. They can do this. I'm going to skip this. Because, well, okay. All right, let's go over AI for just a second. What AI really is, it's taking a massive amount of data and searching for patterns. And a great example of this is facial recognition software. And it's very simple. They take 1 trillion pictures of people and they run them through, and the AI just looks at them all. And if it looks up the eyebrows and the eyes and the nose and the cheeks and everything else, and it goes like, okay, that's this guy, that's this woman, that's this person, that's this, whatever. And you can't imagine the amount of data that these guys process. It takes a lot of processing power. It takes a lot of memory, and that's why it's expensive. Okay. Now, AI, this is the key. This is what AI is in one sentence. AI does what it thinks a human would do based on patterns. They write these algorithms, and they throw all this data, a massive amount of data, at this program, and the algorithm, absorbs it all, and then it begins to form patterns. Oh, this is this, and this is that, and the more data that you feed it, the closer it gets to understanding what a human would do in that situation. Okay. Again, it requires a ton of memory and processing power. It doesn't take any programming by you. They're the ones who do the programming, the people who build the AI. So there's no programming by you. Now, it continually learns and gets more accurate over time. And so that's the good thing about AI. But can I just say that, going back to this slide here, that these guys, they continually learn, and they continually get smarter and smarter over time. You just got to give them the time and the challenges and the alliances and the conferences. You've got to give them, this is their data right there. You got to feed them all this data, and you got to give them time. And you know what? They're going to continually learn and learn and learn and learn. And they're going to really help you move forward. AI in the TAS world, it's used to power bots. It's used for language translation, whether it's spoken or written. It's used for speech analytics with sentiment. It's learned, it's learned speech patterns, and when voices go up and down in cadence and force and volume and so on and so forth, to understand whether somebody's happy or sad. It's used in workforce management. there's definitely a lot of room in our industry for AI, but the low hanging fruit is all the automation that's already in our systems. So final thoughts. Scripting and automation, that is going to be what leads us to efficiency, not AI. Labor availability is not going to likely to get much better. So technology is really the only way forward that I see that can help us to keep growing. And wherever you are on the TAS spectrum, maybe you're thinking, oh, geez, I'm terrible with this stuff. Well, just aim to move steadily to the right. Just, just keep moving forward, and anything that you do will really help, because generally opportunities are going to increase when you move to the right. Your opportunities are going to get bigger, they're going to get more sophisticated, but they're going to be longer term, because once you've got that relationship with them, you've really got them a long term as a customer. And your best investment is going to be your people, really. Your best technology, and I'm somebody who sells technology, and I can tell you your best investment is your people. Before we get to the questions, just a little bit about CloudConsult. We offer fractional CTO consulting. In other words, if you need 2 or 4 hours a month to, have somebody like myself, help you, kind of understand the big picture about what's out there and what's available and what's possible, I'm available for CTO consulting. I also have access to over 300 contact center technology companies with all kinds of crazy technology, and I can help you sort through them. And you don't have to pay me for that, because the vendor that you purchase from pays me. So that's good news for you. The things I'm working on right now to bring into TAS: speech analytics, omni-channel, workforce management, translation services. And so that's my information if you want to know more about what we do. And time for Q&A.
At this time, Steve, we don't have any messages in our Q&A or in our chat boxes, but if anyone has any questions, he's ready for you. Has anyone developed automation on programming and developing scripts, eliminating more labor? Example, a client could fill out a web-based form and that develops the base of the script.
Yeah, check with your vendor. There are some vendors who allow that. So I would definitely check with your vendor on that. The other thing is templates. You building templates for a particular vertical is a key way to expedite your programming.
Tim would like to know who's going to win the Super Bowl. I know he wants to know who do you want to win the Super Bowl, but
I don't know the answer to that question.
Bengals is the answer to the question.
Okay.
Not the Rams. Right, Ken? Not the Rams. Any other questions about AI? Oh, nice, Kelly. The team with the most points at the end. Nice.
Wow.
Give them a few seconds just in case somebody's still typing. Tim says, thank you, Steve. We appreciate you doing this. Well, everyone, hit send right now if you're typing. It's a lot to think about. If we already have existing software, can this run in parallel so we have two running at the same time?
Yes. as a matter of fact, that's one of the things that I'm looking for is a standalone Omni product that, if you're saying, hey, I want more out of my product, or I want different channels that, I don't have, I'm not able to get. I'm looking to create a package. I'm doing it right now. To create a package where I can give you a few seats and you can run it in parallel. So maybe, 1,000 of your customers are perfectly served by your current platform, but maybe you have 20 that need, all the different channels, and they need voice and so on and so forth. And so you can run them in parallel. So yeah, I'm definitely working on getting that for you. Hopefully in the next month or so, I'll have something.
And what about the lost revenue if you charge by time?
Yes, that's a great question. And I don't know the answer to that, but I understand that is one of the things that's like, well, I'm going to lose revenue. But I mean, you got to take a step back and look, you guys are so creative about billing. You're amazing. And, I know you'll figure out a way around this, but the bottom line is, if you have the same amount of labor and you're trying to get, build your business another 20% in a year or two, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it without getting more labor. And so if that's not available, then you've got to create efficiencies. So I think you'll figure it out. You guys will go to the conference and you'll thrash it out.
Where can we read more up on these AI tools?
Definitely you can go online. What I want to do, I'm working on getting a platform that I can use. I can hook up to my own website and so forth. And it'll take me, I'm in the middle of a couple of projects now, but once I get those done, I'm going to get this done, and I'll have something that I can show you actually. And I'll be able to, do deep dives into how bots work and how to do that two-way SMS and email and all that. So.
Is your solution all cloud-based?
Yes.
Okay. Have a few comments. Raise the base rates, and also lost revenue is better than lost customers due to lack of staff. Add more clients, not more agents. Charge for automation and system time. Oh, sorry, Joe. Sorry, Joe. Business intelligence is what he's, not AI, but BI, business intelligence.
Yeah, and again, I'll be getting a platform with BI in it, and the other thing is, once I get the platform, then I got to spend a couple of weeks learning it. In between doing everything else I'm doing. So once I get that together, I will be able to kind of show you, how it works very intimately. So.
Okay, your usage may drop through AI, but so should your payroll. And keep in mind that more labor cost makes your business less competitive in the broad market. We can answer more calls by saving a few seconds on each call. Would you say that AI would be more as an assistance to agents rather than a replacement?
At this time, yes. Now they're called virtual receptionists, which really kind of they're quite amazing. They're like an Alexa or something like that, where you ask questions and it responds to them, and so forth. They're very, very expensive. And so in a contact center that has 250 or 500 agents, yeah, it makes sense to use something like that. But there's a threshold where it's like this doesn't compute, So again, when I say I'm looking for solutions that will work in the TAS market, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, I'm just not going to come in here and say like, yeah, use AI. It costs $1 trillion, and I mean, that's just not the market. And so it is available. There's just a kind of a threshold where it makes sense to start using it. And that's in the hundreds and hundreds of seats.
Okay. One example of BI is looker.com.
Yep.
And due to encryption at rest for HIPAA, some information may not be available to BI, to business intelligence. What would be the best type of automation to upload a large amount of voice files? What a great question. Weren't we just talking about that?
Yeah. What's the question again exactly?
What would be the best type of automation to upload a large amount of voice files?
It's really based on the platform. So I just did a bunch of testing on some voice files from one of the vendors, and it was recorded in mono. So you can record in mono and stereo, and if you record in stereo, then when the AI translates the conversation, it says, this is everything that the agent said, this is everything that the client said. And then you're able to do a scorecard, but because you're able to say, did the agent say this, and how did he say that, and did she say goodbye and hello, and did they repeat the person's name and all that other stuff. But if you record in mono, the AI is very much less likely. I'm just going to say it doesn't work, because what it does is it puts the whole conversation under the client. So you can't search anything by agent. So you can't build a scorecard for the agent, and you can't determine, you can't score the agent basically. So you have to find out from your system if it records in stereo and if that can be turned on. And typically if they are able to record in stereo, they won't default it to stereo because it makes the file obviously like twice as big. And so, our focus has always been like, keep those voice files, small and compressed because of storage. Well, if you're going to want to use, a speech analytics tool, you're going to have to get it recorded in stereo and then offload it and then get it compressed and store the compressed file somewhere else, if you want to save on storage.
Okay. Would your solution come out of box with any specific compliance, say HIPAA?
Yes. Yes. PCI, SOC, everything.
Is this solution compatible with StarTel or Telco?
Not at this time. I mean, if at some point, that's a little bit down the road. Now, I would like that to happen. That because if you have the Omni and it's fully integrated with the platforms, then it just becomes an appendage, and all your reporting is in the same place. But that takes a lot of integration work, and we'll have to see how that goes.
And what is the first step if you review your accounts and look for what? How do you begin the automation process?
I would definitely begin with the well, there's two things. Gosh, man. The first thing I would do is I would look at taking one account, and I would do that thing with the database, and I would take note of the times, the average call time, and then I would do that and and see how that works and see what your results are, and then I would start from there. I think that's very low hanging fruit, and it's not that difficult. When I say it takes 2 hours to program that, man, that's taking a break in the middle and looking at YouTube and everything else. I mean, so the other thing, and this is a kind of a longer discussion, but and it really would help to have speech analytics, because the other thing is you really got to look hard at how you have programmed your script, because if you can listen to calls and you can see that your agent is kind of wobbling through the call, it may be because you haven't given your agent enough direction, to be able to confidently, move through the call. And you may need to go back and tweak the scripts that you've written. But a lot of that analysis comes through listening to the calls and kind of saying like, and if you're able to get a screen recording of the call and listen to the call and see them on, as they're touching the keys, that gives you a lot of insight on whether you've programmed something efficiently enough where they're able to buzz through it very confidently and quickly.
Okay, no more open questions, and are the APIs published?
You would have to ask your vendor.
You'd have to what?
Ask your vendor.
Ask the vendor. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have like 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. Everybody press send again, so I know if you're typing. That's right. Go
Go
Bengals.
Bengals. Okay, we're back to that.
Steve, thank you so much. What a great webinar. So much information that you've shared with all of us. I know that I've learned a lot. I'm getting a lot of great jobs, and thank you so much. It's on our chat. So we appreciate you. We hope to see you again soon. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Signing off from ATSI.
Thanks, everyone.